falling in love with the potential of someone as opposed to who that person actually is in the moment. A tale about as old as time itself. You know, I've always believed that women would break their rules for certain guys that are in the top 1% of whatever stat that they're looking for. Whether it's status, finance, looks, physique, a really prestigious career, whatever it is, right? For example, if a guy was really attractive, let's say top 1% in looks, there's girls that say guys who take mirror selfies are red flags. But if that guy was good looking enough or attractive enough, she would still swipe right regardless. All that mirror selfie red flag thing goes right out the window if you're attractive enough. And it's a little bit of a black pill take, but some of reality is black pill. Like, you guys know me, right? I've always been more of the delusional optimist side, 100% accountability, etc, etc. I've never been the one to promote the doom and gloom mindset, even though it'd be real profitable to sit here and say life sucks, women suck, etc. And actually, great example, I was recently talking to, I'll just say one of my homegirls because she'd be mad if I referenced her. But she was telling me about how a guy recently approached her and he was decent looking, right? So she gave him her number. And the first thing he sent her wasn't even a text, but it was a picture of himself. He sent her a selfie, and he was objectively a decent looking guy, right? Pause, no diddy. And I said to her, if he wasn't decent looking, you would have thought that was weird and kind of creepy. And she agreed, even though she's not even the type to agree with red pill takes or whatever. But basically, girls will break their rules if they like the guy enough. But on the opposite end, a lot of guys would also break their rules depending on how attractive the girl is. Because oftentimes, if a girl is attractive enough, as guys, it's real easy to be blinded or look past certain things that you normally wouldn't. Even though you think you're conscious of it, you just can't help it because of how attractive she is. And this is normally where thinking with the wrong head gets you in these long-term consequences. You know, it's kind of funny. I remember back in my early college days, there was this girl that she was bad. You know, she was white and Hispanic, about 5'7", 5'8". She had a really nice body, everything, right? She was a baddie. And during freshman year, I had 2 classes with her, and I even met her during orientation. But she was the type that always looked for parties or tried to get lit, and she was telling me about how she loved to go to Mexico during breaks so she could drink. And back then I was like, why? Like, I didn't know that the drinking age was lower in Mexico. But the point is, she was the type that loved to drink, to party, dress provocatively, loves going to the club. And you guys know me, right? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't party, etc. But she was so bad that a part of me was like, you know, maybe I could make it work. You know, maybe I could get her down hypothetically if I was with her. Like, I was fantasizing about this during lectures, but I didn't make a move for a long time because almost every other dude in the class was hitting on her. Like, I think there was one day where I saw 2 dudes ask her for her number the same day, but she turned them both down. But I was thinking to myself that maybe if I was with her, I'd be okay with her dressing a little bit revealing. You know, maybe I'd be okay with her getting lit or partying once a week or every other week. And then once I'm with her, maybe I can get her to fall in love to the point where maybe she wouldn't quit doing these things. You know, maybe she wouldn't quit dressing like she's going to the strip club every Friday, but maybe I can get her to tone it down just a bit through time. Like, she was so attractive where I started believing in the potential of what it could be versus what it actually is. Like, everything that was a red flag before I was compromising on. And I'm not gonna lie, she was bad enough to the point where if there was a point where I got to be with her, then I would have started drinking as well. Okay, now I'm playing. But something else to keep in mind as a guy is that when you catch feelings for a girl, right, it's easy to get addicted to the fantasy or idea of someone, especially if she's out of reach. I've said this before, but when you're a guy and you don't have purpose, there's a natural inclination to want to chase love or chase a girl. You know, when you have a lack of direction as a guy, you naturally want to find someone else to distract you. And it's essentially the same thing for girls, right? That's why there's certain types of women that can never be single. They always got to be dealing with some guy in some way, shape, or form. Because when you have no purpose, you seek escapism through the dopamine of love. And when you're in this state, that's really bad because you wouldn't see a red flag if it hit you in the face. And even if you saw it, you would somehow convince yourself that red is green. Anyway, I got a Hinge reply this late. Back in the game. Yeah, she's kind of bad, you know, like her. Like her as well. Alright, what am I doing? But you'll start to do things like mistake chemistry for compatibility, which, to be fair, everyone does. Because all it takes is a good night, some R&B, some butt-naked sex, a couple laughs, and you think that they're your soulmate. You know, first time you get laid in 6 months and you think you love her. But basically, all logic goes out the window, even if you think you're aware of it, right? It's impossible to control, and to be honest, I would have folded. And the key point is that you're actually aware when you're doing this, when you're compromising on your values. You know, when you're compromising on those red flags because she's so attractive. It's actually no different than women that date rappers or athletes and go on a social media tirade when they get cheated on. Like, you know these chicks on Instagram that get smashed by rappers or athletes and then pretend like they're gonna get cuffed or be the only one, and then act like them getting cheated on was like the most shocking, most devastating thing ever? So the only way to reconcile the fact that they were a side chick is to blast them on social media or try to get sympathy or try to drag him down. Like, bro, women will be the type to burn everything down. That's why there's that saying, hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn. It's like, really, you date a rapper, celebrity, athlete, and you're surprised that you got cheated on? Someone that's famous, has girls in his DM, traveling all the time, money, resources, etc. Listen, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I would cheat. But it's like you seen the pattern. You got with someone with all these circumstances that would make it likely for them to cheat. It's like the analogy of the scorpion and the frog, right? The scorpion ended up stinging the frog and they both died. And the frog was like, why'd you sting me? Now we're both dead. And the scorpion said, it's because I'm a scorpion. I just couldn't help it. That's why you always have to look at pattern or behavior over potential. But again, I'm not going to act like it's easy, right? There is nuance to most things. Like, there could be one aspect of this person that you fell in love with, but also a pattern of negative behavior. So you're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. And in that situation, it would be hard to walk away from. And this is why, especially as a guy, your logic has to be ice cold. Like, be warm-hearted, but also cold-minded. Your logic has to be objective to circumvent putting yourself in precarious situations. Oh my gosh, I'm like Shakespeare out here. But if you fall in love with potential, you end up becoming the guy that thinks, oh, I can fix her. Bro, if one thing life should teach you is that you can't fix anyone, you can only fix yourself. You can't change a single person. And when you're in this situation, it's hard to feel like you're in a relationship, like real talk. And then you end up not being able to grow yourself, you feel held down. And it's also a bit of ego within us as guys, right? Thinking that she can change for you. Here's the thing, right? If that change isn't internal, if that change is forced, there's always going to be some type of resentment deep down inside. And this is some quick game for you guys. This is why at the beginning stage of dating, you never want to come off as judgmental. You let them talk as much as possible. You let them reveal everything themselves. And you got to set it up as well. You got to be like, you probably had some wild days back in college, huh? You can tell me, I won't judge. You know, I had a past as well. And then she'll be like, well, there was a point in time where I was hooking up with different guys at parties every weekend, but I'm not like that anymore. And then you got to play it cool. You pretend to be cool with it. You're like, it's all good. We all had that phase before. You know, you're just young. You're just having fun, etc., etc. And then based on your parameters, you can decide when you want to qualify or disqualify them from taking them serious. But actually, now that I think about it, it seems like girls fall into this trap way more of falling in love with potential or wanting to fix someone, because they have a natural proclivity to want to nurture. Like, for example, sometimes you will have situations where there are girls with bums with no ambition, whatever. And in those types of situations, 9 times out of 10, it starts off as a high school sweetheart, college situation. And then once that shield of being in college or being in school is gone, she sees him for what he is, but she can't leave him. Oftentimes, this is because they want to fix a guy or they believe in their potential. And this is how women can fall into that trap of falling in love with potential over pattern, right? This is how they end up staying with a guy whose habits don't change. So it goes both ways, right? This is something that both men and women can relate to in different ways. Like, as guys, we don't bet on a woman's potential for success. I will say though, those types of girls are actually really good girls, like the ones that are willing to stay. You know, the ones that are willing to bet on the potential of a guy even if he's in the gutter. Like, they're extremely loyal. I mean, there are other factors, like maybe she's afraid to start over, like she's invested 5 years into the guy. Maybe she has low self-esteem, maybe you sold her a dream, like who knows, there's a bunch of different things. But that's a whole nother topic in itself. But yeah, I hope you guys got something from that. Thank you for listening. I love you. I appreciate you. With that said, make sure you guys stay true. Talk to you guys real soon. Peace.